Good morning. You're listening to the BLAINESWORLD webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can find out about this show and past shows at my website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week we focus on kind of different things and cool things that are happening in the Asheville area and throughout the country as well. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce one kind of longtime friend and then one relatively new friend. But I'd like to introduce you to both David Francis and Simone Vigilante. And you can wave to all your friends and friends who are watching this. And I need your help, Simone, because you let me pronounce it that way. But the true pronunciation of your name is what?
Vigilante, with the hand gesture. You have to give the hand gesture. That's the Italian way.
And how do you pronounce David Francis in the Italian way?
David, Francis, BB, Francis, BB.
This is great. I'm learning some. Wait, I'll put you on the spot one more time. Blaine Greenfield. How do you pronounce that in Italian?
Well, my brother's name's Blaine.
Is it really?
It is.
I'll tell you a story about Blaine after the air. Remind me to tell you a story about Blaine. But how do you pronounce his name in Italian?
I don't know.
Blaine.
You know, we mostly just call him by his last name, Vig.
Vig. Okay.
Yeah, he was a fireman. He's into does his body work. He's a CrossFit trainer, and so we call him Vig.
But I'm so honored that he's a member of the Blaine Club. There's so few people Blaine, so that's cool. Yeah. I should mention that Simone is also a professor of voice at Marshall University, a vocal instructor at Academy for the Arts, Cantor, soloist, vocalist at St. Mary's Episcopal Church in Asheville. And she also has her own voice studio. And I wonder, do you also do you teach like roller skating? Because in terms of getting back and forth to all these different places, you really have to get around, do you?
It is a hike. I also teach at different churches. You know, if I have one or two students, so I'll be at Beth Atafila Temple, I'll be at Grace Episcopal Church, and I just try to get them where I can knock them out on my way to Mars Hill or on my way back.
Well,
Academy for the Arts, I've been there for 10 years now since they opened the doors, and that's always been a lovely place to be affiliated with.
Well, certainly you keep busy, it seems like. In spare time, you do all this. I should mention David Troy Francis is an artistic director, pianist, composer, producer. There's a whole bunch of different things. And so I'll start off with you, David, for the benefit of the folks who don't know you. When did you start playing the piano?
64 years ago.
Okay. Wait, you started when you were 2 years old? 2 years old? No, 64 years old. So you started playing, was that the first instrument? Was that first instrument you started playing piano?
Yes.
And so what got you into it? You were forced into it, or you did this voluntarily?
They offered lessons in my public school after the end of the school day. And I wanted to start in second grade, but my parents said I needed to wait a year. And if I still wanted to do it in third grade, they would allow me to do so. I did. They let me start taking. And it was about 10 months later, I got a piano.
I was going to say, so before you got the piano, how did you learn how to play? Just at the school?
Cardboard piano, unfold and practice.
So that's pretty good, though. Within 10 months, you got your first piano. Do we still have that first piano?
No.
No? I'm surprised. Or at your house, you don't keep it as a relic or anything? So
I gave it maybe 30 years ago.
Okay. So you started then playing, I guess, third grade. How did you go from there? When did you decide you really wanted to do this seriously or professionally?
I was just always very, very gifted. And so I started working, playing piano for churches a year and a half later. And it just sort of grew from there.
That must have been pretty cool that you started playing for churches. You were still a young kid. What was your first gig that you got paid for? Do you remember?
Well, church.
So you were how old?
I was 10.
And you got paid as a 10-year-old playing at a church?
$10 a month.
Do you really? Now, I don't see it in the back of your room there. I don't see it framed, the first check or the first $10. But that's pretty cool that you're getting, as a 10-year-old, getting $10 to play the piano. So that's when you decided that that's a pretty cool gig?
Yeah, yeah. You know,
I mean, to pay a 10-year-old to get, that's pretty good. So then you continued as a music student, or you went to school for it? What was your background there?
studied at elementary school for 2 years. Then I started taking privately and put together vocal groups, played in bands, took up drums, took up alto sax, took up guitar, and just kept finding other things that people would pay me to for. And then majored in college in piano performance and just kept doing it the rest of my life.
So I don't think you ever told me that. So before you now, I would say mostly you do classical music, would you say is what you typically do now?
I no, I do less classical music now than I used to. I do more musical theater or arrangements of other material that I love.
And talk about the musical theater, right? You did a musical, right? At
Yeah,
one time. Talk about that music, which I loved.
ARC.
Yeah. And what got you inspired to do that?
I always wanted to write a musical, and so I had been hired by ABC Television to write 4 songs for a project at ABC. And I liked the song so much, I took them to a friend and said, do you think I can turn this into an entire musical? And so I did it because I thought it would be a hell of a good time.
And that was Bach. Have you done anything since? Have you done any other shows since then?
I wrote Naughty But Nice that they did at Asheville Community Theater. And that's really it, those 2.
Now, Simone, did you ever see Bach?
I did,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, wasn't it
I
fantastic?
I loved it, yes.
I loved it. David, we have to, it's a shame, or I should ask you, David, has that been done anywhere else, Bach?
It just closed in a place called Onnacock, Virginia, last week. And it's opening somewhere. It closed in California a few months ago. We license it, and so it continues to have a life.
Very exciting. And when it goes elsewhere, have you ever seen it done elsewhere?
Sure, I've seen a lot. I've probably seen 40 productions of it.
Okay. Well,
And
we have to get back to Asheville, because it's just one of the first things I saw in Asheville. I just loved it. And our mutual friend, I remember so well, killed it. Remember Carol Dermott was in that? And she was just that. I think that's the first time I saw her, and I just loved it. So that's David Troy's Aaron's background. Simone, you and I haven't met before on the air here. When did you start singing?
Very young age. Let's see, I was 3rd grade is what comes to mind. I grew up in the Rochester, New York area. So I didn't realize till I was older, but Eastman School of Music is there. And that was a very big influence on me and just other students in the area. It seemed all of us sang and played a few instruments. We sang, we did piano, and then I did clarinet as well. But I have friends who did bassoon, who are professional bassoonists now. And even though we went to public school, we had top-notch teachers, especially music, who were from Eastman School of Music.
This question I asked David, the same question to you. Do you remember the first time you ever got paid to sing?
I was thinking of that when you asked him. I mean, I don't remember. Which my family, they give money. They're people who like to give money as gifts. So I probably. But my first real pay was when I was in undergraduate school at North Carolina School of the Arts in Winston-Salem. Freshman year had a church job at Highland Presbyterian Church, and I've had a church job ever since.
But it was cool.
So that
You
was
got
my first regular pay. My teacher, Dr. Marilyn Taylor, who still is a teacher at North Carolina School of the Arts, she always advocated that if we have a part-time job during school, we are working towards what we're getting a degree in. So if you're going to clean someone's house, trade it for voice lessons or get a church job. Don't do a part-time job that's not really working towards your goal. So I took that to heart and always have had a church job since.
By the way, thank you for mentioning Dr. Taylor's name, because what I'll ask you to do is please share this clip with Dr. Taylor afterward. You know, I'd say we talked about her, which is really cool.
We still keep in touch. I see her regularly at the NATS, National Association of Teacher for Singers conferences and competitions. I send her with students of mine all the time. So she's a lifelong friend, and she was my teacher at North Carolina School of the Arts. I was the first student she had there. That was in the first group.
You remember the first music lesson you have, first singing lesson before Dr. Taylor as a kid? Do you remember?
Well, I took piano from the age of 5 years old. My parents bought a piano. I took piano lessons from the time I was 5 until I graduated high school privately. And I was not a great piano student. So my teacher, who actually was our neighbor, she just asked me to sing. She said, how about you sing for half of this lesson? And I was very good at that. So
maybe she was giving you a message,
I think so. I think so. We just carried on with that. But I had a very big voice from a young age. And I think my mother had a very good singing voice. And she did our children's choir at church and such. And I think I mostly probably imitated her, even though I wasn't conscious of it. So from a young age, people always advocated that I sing. And even in third grade, I think it's why it's so prominent in my mind. Ruth Heights was our elementary school teacher at Churchville Elementary. And she asked my parents if I could do some singing groups outside of school. So I did Peace Child, which was during the Cold War. And we did a lot of collaboration with people who came over from the Soviet Union. So that was a group I was in with about 3 other kids from school. And
by the way, same thing too. Is this teacher still around? The one you just mentioned?
I think so.
Okay, same thing too. Let's dig her up and send her a copy that we talked about her on the air.
I'll ask. Another very big influence in my life was my high school choir teacher, Rob Goodling. And
Lovely.
we keep in touch. Actually, when I go, my father still lives in the Rochester area. When I go home, Rob and I always get together and we do a concert every time. Lovely. And we keep in touch. And he was such a great influence. My freshman year of high school, I made the concert choir, which was the higher choir. And we went to Paris, France for the bicentennial celebration. And we did the Fauré Requiem, which that was my first chance of doing a masterwork. And then my senior year, we went to Spain in 1992 and we sang at the Expo. And I was the soloist at the American Pavilion.
Your story reminds me of one I may have told David, but I had just the opposite experience. When I was maybe third grade, I told David, for some reason, my mother, I wanted to sing, right? And so she took me to see some lady who played the piano. And I go into the lady's, where she was playing the piano. And I come out 15 minutes later, and all I know, I never got singing lessons. So same thing as your story, Simone, just an opposite, or same thing. She must have told my mother, don't waste your money, And so real quickly, the rest of the story. So for 50 years, I didn't sing. I wouldn't even open my mouth to sing Happy Birthday. And then I had to do an audition, and the lady said I could sing. And so, but it isn't incredible if you tell a kid something, how you can mess up a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll ask both of you the same question. David, I'll ask you first. So you've also taught piano. Is that correct, David? You teach piano, or you've taught piano?
I
off and on?
Sporadically. I don't teach much.
Okay, but in piano, and then I ask Simone the question singing, can anybody learn to play the piano?
Some people have more gifts toward, but pretty much anyone can if they want to, if they're willing to spend the time and the effort.
And Simone, the same question, when you get people take singing lessons, do you ever get somebody for a singing lesson and say to yourself, this person, isn't such a great singer? Do you ever make that observation?
I've had a few students over the years who come to me knowing they're tone deaf.
Yeah.
And I have some who've come to me not knowing they're tone deaf. And with the putting in the work, within a month, I had this one student named Dylan, and he was a teacher. I think he probably still lives in the area, but he was very, very persistent with wanting to sing on pitch. He knew he didn't, and he could pay for 1 month of lessons. In that 1 month, he was singing on pitch consistently. He really put in the work and did everything I said. And then I have some people who come wanting, I'll have people come like 3 days before they were leaving for American Idol and be like, I've got this audition. And oh my gosh, they can't match pitch, but they don't realize it. So yes, if you have the will and you know, if you have the sense about you to realize what your faults may be, that you need to work on your pitch, then yes. But if you don't realize you can't sing on pitch, then and you think there's nothing wrong, then you don't get very far.
Very cool. So you've actually worked with people who want to be on American Idol?
Oh yes, several times.
Has
not
anybody?
Realizing
Yeah.
you need to, you should have been taking lessons a few years ago, not 72 hours before you're leaving.
Has anybody ever made it to American Idol?
Not that I know of. And the people I had came in just for one lesson. I can't even tell you the name of any of them. But just kind of disappointed that, I didn't have some like magic wand or something to just pull it all together for them in one lesson. But college students, I've had some fabulous college students who start not being able to read music and, can't really tell a quarter note from a whole note, and they put the work in and they turn out to be quite fine musicians and singers. So I really do love, my niche really is the college or students trying to get into vocal performance programs. That's really my niche and what I love to do, what I'm good at. And I love working with the students of that age and adults. I love working with adults as well.
So back to David. So you went to school to study piano. As an undergraduate, you were a music major, David?
Piano performance major.
Okay.
Yes.
And so at that point in time, that's when you decided to do this professionally?
I had already been doing it professionally since I was
10 years old, But aside from professionally, but then after you graduated college, though, you were doing it, and you were then doing it full time at that point in time, right?
Yes.
And so what always amazed me about you, David, is, as you were saying, your career went, I guess, in several different directions in terms of, performing and all the stuff you do. Like, do you do composing also?
Yes.
Okay. You directed some shows, you wrote Bach. Do you have a favorite thing in music that you like to do best?
I love everything. I love playing the piano. I love arranging music and accompanying really great singers, be they opera or musical theater or R&B. I like composing. I like it all.
Now, something that you told me once I interviewed you on another show, in terms of practicing, do you still practice?
Yes, but not the 4 to 11 hours a day that I used to.
But how often do you practice now?
I gave a concert last fall, and I probably practiced 150 hours for it. So a significant amount. But
and so,
sorry.
I'm sorry. So even when you're not doing a concert, you'll still practice?
I still play. And scales and just to make sure my hands continue to work.
Okay. And the same question, Simone, do you sing every day?
Yes. Vocalizing every day.
Yeah. How do you do it a set time, or do you more at other times?
Well, with my lifestyle, with working so many places, and I have 2 teenagers now, it's not a set time. I can tell you, I do prefer to get up in the morning, hydrate, drink water right away, and come downstairs, have a cup of tea. I'm more of a tea drinker than coffee drinker, and do vocalises for about 15 minutes. So I find it best to have these short little spurts of practice of vocalizing, rather, and partly it's just because that realistically is what I can do in my life, whether I'm at home or in between voice students at the university, is be able to put in 10 or 15 minutes at a time. But it is an everyday, it's a lifestyle. It's an everyday thing.
Do you sing in the shower?
No.
No? Do you sing?
I will listen. For instance, every rehearsal I have, especially with David, because he really keeps me on my toes. He likes to, and this is what I love about him, is he likes to do things in a creative, original way. So when I'm in the shower, if we have a rehearsal, I record every rehearsal on an app on my phone, and I will play it while I'm in the shower or while I'm getting ready. So I can listen for what he is wanting me to do, whether it's a voice effect or whether it's changing the rhythm of something or an entrance. So I can really absorb it in a way that I'm not like on the hot seat trying to do it in the moment. So that is one thing I absolutely love about working with him, is how it's not like my training, which everything was very structured. Everything is to be done a certain way, very specifically. He really has allowed permission for me to live outside of the box on things. And I really needed that. So I've never, ever will turn down an opportunity to get to perform with him.
Do you play also driving back and forth? Do you ever sing when you're in the car?
I won't sing in the car, but I will listen. Yeah, there's a lot to be said, and I tell this to my students all the time. Stop doing and just listen. Listen and let the information absorb into your mind so you can process it, instead of, it's a different train of thought when you're just doing, and you're not really letting it soak in and not allowing yourself to comprehend what your teacher or what your coach or your collaborator is wanting you to do. So, and it took me a long time to be able to just listen and to stop just trying to do.
Do you get the family to sing with you too, or do the boys sing at all?
Well, I have a son and a daughter. My son has a beautiful singing voice, but and he'll sing, but he loves like old country, Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings and such. And my daughter sings too, but she's more like an Ethel Merman.
Well, belt them out.
So my kids aren't into music really. My son does play bass guitar sometimes, the electric bass. But they're like, Mom, everybody knows you. You know, our parents at school know you from, you know, they sing in Nashville Symphony Chorus and you were the soloist, or they sing in Nashville Choral Society and you're the soloist. Like, everybody knows you. And that's not, you know, we don't want to do what you do. So my daughter's more into art, and my son is our future farmer of America. He's going to be feeding the country with all of his gardening and animal care that he does.
And what you said kind of segues back to David, because David, let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff you do from a collaborative standpoint. And you've always blown me away by the fact that you've done several shows, and talk about that. Simone mentioned you've done shows with Simone. You've done shows with other solo performers too. And you sort of seem to have a flair for that. You like putting those shows together?
I love doing that because they're all very different. And so to do a program with Simone is definitely going to have far different material than a show with Carol Dermott, right? They're both will be outstanding and entertaining, but very different. And I like working with different kinds of music.
And so, take, for example, Simone's upcoming show. When did you get the idea for that? And let's talk a little bit about that as well. So, how did you get the idea and when?
All right. So, we're doing a concert at the St. Giles Chapel out on the campus of Deerfield Community. And on August 25th, it's a Sunday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And originally, I had invited Simone to come down to Georgia to be our guest artist for the Roswell Music Club, which is classical music support group that Mike and I started some years ago. And then she had hurt her foot and had to have surgery. But we thought we would swap, do one concert here and then do one in Nashville. But we ended up not being able to do the one here. So the actual one is going to be our chance. We wanted to do a concert where we performed the music that we love, right? From our own just experience performance lives. And so it'll have opera from her. It'll have a song you've never heard of called Marshmallow Jello Surprise.
Lime Jello, Marshmallow, Cottage Cheese Surprise by William Blum.
I never heard that one, I have to say.
Yeah, sure. And then
Well, that'll be a new piece for us, but we both like it.
And then I will play piano solos from musical theater or some classical, but it's going to be music that we love. And so hopefully it'll be a joyous, uplifting opportunity for people to take a moment from all the chaos of our lives and have some really extraordinarily exquisite music performed by two people who are really very good at what we do.
Now talk about the music you'll be playing. Will you be playing anything from Bach?
I will not, but I will be playing stuff from Younger Than Springtime, you know, from South Pacific, and it will be.
Will you also perform the number you did for me one time, arguably the greatest rock song of all time, and that's Happy Together? Will you be performing that?
I will not.
Damn. No, David Simone actually did me a favor once. He actually made a video of him playing that, and I loved it. So thank you belatedly for that, David. And Simone, I'll invite you somewhere down the road to get you a chance. I'll make you a star on Facebook to Happy Together. But David, talk about also, Simone alluded to it, I find fascinating. So you've been in rehearsal for this concert, but have you been in person at all during the past couple months to rehearse this?
No.
So talk about what that entails.
It's digital. You know, I'll make her an audio track and send it to her, and she'll rehearse, and she'll write me back and say, too high, too low, too slow. I hate this. And will.
So you've done that before?
Yes.
That's fascinating. And well, Simone, I'll ask you, how does it work out?
That works out much better than what we tried to do in the past, which was I'm on my end on Zoom,
right, singing.
David's on his end on Zoom playing, and there's just too much interference with the time lapse. So recording and sending me the recording is much better. We also have done in the past where he sends me the recording. We both Zoom in, but I have in real time the recording on my end, and I'll be singing it to what he's playing, and then he'll tell me his critique of what he thinks I should consider to do differently, or what he may like about it, certain sections. And it's very, oh my gosh, all of the sessions I have with him I save, because it is such an amazingly creative process to me. And if Mike is there too, like Mike, to hear Mike and David go back and forth on, wait, she should do it in this key, or I think you should modulate here. I mean, it's an amazing experience.
And by the way, since you mentioned Simone, David, if you would give a shout out to Mike, and so we're mentioning him. I didn't know Mike has a musical background too, or does he?
Yes, he has a master's degree in music.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And played piano through college.
Okay. And we should mention Mike's last name is
Mike Bostad.
Okay, and he's your husband. And so that's really cool. So he's involved in the process as well. He helps out.
Yes.
Well, sometimes, yes. Well, all the time with the creative flyers and things like that and the website. He spends a lot of time on that. But sometimes he's in our rehearsals as well.
Yes, he was a music editor for A-list films in Hollywood for years.
Now, David, before the event itself, and we'll come back to that in a second, will you and Simone get together a live rehearsal, or that day will you, before the show?
I'm coming a few days early, so I can beat her into.
Okay. So let me ask you, you mentioned Carol Dermot before, and some other times you've done this. Have you ever done a concert this way in terms of almost like virtually until the event itself? Have you, like when you work with Carol or anybody else, were you able to do it the same way?
Yes, I've done it with people in California or other places. It's much more common than it used to be.
Okay.
For sure. The last show I performed with Simone was at the Diana Wortham when we did that Imagine.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
For the Haywood Street fresco.
Right.
And Simone sang there. That was the last time we performed together. It was a great
I think
show.
we've done a few house concerts since then. And,
Yep.
and we did a memorial service.
That was after that?
Yeah, we did the memorial service at Arden Presbyterian, and then we did the house concert
I thought I lived
in
in California
Fillmore Forest.
for service.
Because I remember.
But it's one thing. I mean, this is one great thing. David and I have been working together for over 10 years, I think.
Yes.
And when you work a lot with someone, because when David lived here, David and I worked together consistently, that you get to know each other. So even if we decide to do something we haven't done before, he knows so well me and what I'll do, and I know how he plays, that rehearsal time is something that isn't needed in as extensively as it is with people I don't perform with regularly. But from the first moment I went to David's house, I remember singing a Mark Hayes spiritual medley, and I'd never met him before. I didn't know much about him at all. And he was there with me the entire time. There's just something about working with him that I can't even put into words. That it's a special thing. It's just some sort of magical energy we have between us that is really wonderful. And I don't worry when David's at the piano and I haven't seen him for a while. And on this concert, we'll do some things we've done before, and then we'll do some things that we've not done before. And I know he'll be there. He'll be with me.
And Simone mentioned, David, the first time she met you, or the first time she saw you, I guess, at your place. How'd that happen? Was she invited, or did you hear about her? Or how'd you get her to come to your place?
Somewhere. Do you remember?
It was at Diana Wortham when I did Mother Abbess.
Oh, yeah, and the Sound of Music.
Sound of Music.
Okay.
Yeah. And so somehow I said, I want to meet this voice, and either got her number or called or had somebody that knew her. So I'm very proactive with great singers.
Well, I think a compliment to you. I think you're very proactive in everything you do. That's how I met David also, Simone. Remember, you invited me to the church you were doing work with and just said, hey, come on over. He just kind of ropes people into different kinds of projects. Have you ever done that, Simone, also, even in your teaching? Do you do it long distance too as well? Do you teach on Zoom?
Oh, I have, yes. Especially if I have a student. See, with a college student, sometimes I'll have students that are from California, or sometimes they're from Germany. And over break, they'll still want a lesson, especially if they have an audition coming up or a competition. And so we will do a virtual lesson. But through the pandemic, I've learned how to use SoundJack. So that allows you to have a lesson in real time using this equipment. So it's much easier than just doing Zoom on each end to be able to use the SoundJack equipment.
but it should really change things, as David said, because same thing too. I work with a trainer, and it's a pleasure. I do it now via Zoom, not having to go to her gym, so it's just
Oh, yes.
it can be done. It's pretty cool.
Hmm.
David, in terms of really cool things, now let's talk about this idea, the upcoming concert. So again, when did you decide to do it? And let's talk about some of the specifics. What gave you the idea to do it?
Well, we like performing together. And so when I had an opening for an artist here, I asked her if she would, and she said yes. And we said, well, it'd be nice to also do a paired concert in Asheville because we lived there for 7 years and we have so many friends, Mike and I, there. And as you probably remember, I directed the Deerfield Chorus. I worked for churches. We did Dead Man Walking opera. They did Bark at Asheville Community Theater. They did Naughty But Nice. We did Little Match Girl at North Carolina Stage. And I just played for almost any venue there in some capacity. So we know so many people, the Gay Men's Chorus, the Diana Wortham, on and on and on. And so I would like to see all those people again. And I would love for them to come have an opportunity to hear me play with Simone, whose voice is a work of art. And so that was the impetus, just for the fun of doing a concert together, but also to do it for people that we love and who love us and who won't go, oh, that sucked.
Well, the one bad thing about this concert, though, or something you told me about it, and I don't know if you want to share it again, but I'll mention it then. You said that this may be your last performance in Asheville, or are you thinking it will be?
Well, I'm 72, and as with anyone who ages, we have different challenges as part of growing older. And so it just becomes more challenging to travel and to set it up and to deal with all the moving parts that one must deal with in order to make something like this happen.
So folks want to see you at Deerfield again. Repeat a couple of things. First of all, the date again is what date?
Sunday, August 25th at 4:00.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to thank you too for changing the time, because I don't know about you, Simone, but as I get older and I have a couple of years on David, I like earlier too.
Well, he asked me what I thought about
Right.
that, and I said, well, we have some church members at St. Mary's who live at Deerfield, and I said, I really think they need the earlier time, and so he was like, no problem, that's what we'll do.
No, but it was perfect, David, when you told me, because again, I like earlier, shorter also. It doesn't have to be a 3 hour. Hopefully, I'm not stepping on your toes. Hopefully, it's not a 3 hour concert. But I really
Oh.
like. Well, no,
10.
how long?
About an hour and 10.
Okay, make my day. Let me ask you the second key part. So it's an early start. Thank you. I will be there. And then there's no intermission?
We're not, probably not. We think we're just going to go straight through.
Well, an hour 10, I love it, because the earlier you get started, the earlier you get out of there. I love it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So now you got me psyched about coming. So if people want to get tickets to this event, how do they do it, David?
It's easy. You just have to remember my name, David Troy Francis. Concert.com is the website, and it has all of the bio information, the time, the location of St. Giles Chapel, it's an intimate venue. It only holds 90 people.
Okay.
And I feel fairly confident we'll sell it out. But so do get your tickets now, davidtroyfrancisconcert.com.
Okay. And yeah, I didn't realize you only had 90 seats there. But yeah, if you're there and you mention all your fans and friends, including me, yeah, better get tickets early on that if they want to get to it. And Simone probably also will sell, she alone will probably sell about 85 seats, just her fan club. to be there. But that's really cool, guys. And let me ask you both one final question. And that has to do that after this concert, Simone, if you can share with any upcoming things, you mentioned a couple possibilities in the spring, but they can see you every Sunday you're at church. They can.
So every Sunday, I am the cantor at St. Mary's Episcopal Church on 337 Charlotte Street. And I've been there, it'll be 19 years in February of 2025.
By the way, so just if they want to see you just sing, they'll hear you. Do you sing in addition
The
there?
11 o'clock service on Sundays. Yep.
Okay. So
and then lately I've been performing quite a bit with Rutherfordton Chamber Consort, and they travel. We've been in Saluda, Tryon. We were at the Montreat Chapel of the Prodigal in Rutherfordton. And Virginia McKnight and I, she's my local collaborative pianist. Virginia McKnight and I will be performing in the spring with Rutherfordton Chamber Consort, the Schumann Frauenliebe und Leben, which is the love and life of a woman. And I'm very much looking forward to that collaboration with Virginia, who I've been working with in my private voice studio as my collaborative pianist for the past 15 or so years. And we'll see after that what else we may get to do together. We often perform together at the Asheville Area Piano Forum when they do their fundraising concerts. Virginia and I will sometimes be there performing as well.
By the way, say hello to Virginia for me, because I haven't seen her for years. When I was at SAUT, I was active on SAUT board and active at SAUT, and she was great there. So I haven't seen her in a lot of years, but she's great. And so if folks want to keep up to date with what you're doing, or where they can see you or get in touch with you, what's the best bet?
Me?
The place that's a really great place for people to contact me is through Facebook Messenger, Simone Vigilante. I'm on there. Or send me an email at simonesongbird@charter.net. But Facebook, I'm on there regularly. I get a lot of messages from people that would like lessons or would like to connect or ask me if I'm interested in doing something. So that would be a good place.
And more importantly, they can come to the concert on the 25th. And afterward, if I can ask you afterwards, I understand you'll sign autographs as well?
Sure.
Okay, so if you want to meet Simone Vigilante, please come on the 25th. David, same thing I'll ask you. If people want to keep track of you or doing what you're doing and keep in touch with what you're doing, what's the best bet?
DavidChoiFrancis.com, DavidChoiFrancisConcert.com, or RoswellMusicClub.com. We have this Roswell Music Club meets on the third Sunday of every month here in Roswell. We have extraordinarily gifted artists perform in intimate venues. This month is Mi Kyung Soon, who is the Yo-Yo Ma of the double bass. She's a Korean, she's the future of double bass artist, and she's 30ish, and she's going to have her career like Yo-Yo Ma. I'm so excited to rehearse with her this Friday.
But that's and I should know where it is. Where is Roswell, Georgia?
It's just northwest of Atlanta. It's a suburb of Atlanta.
Okay. But if you don't want to go see David or track him down in Georgia, best bet is come to the 25th then, right? And
absolutely 25th. Yes.
Okay. And you saw I've trained David, Simone. You saw the thumbs up. So I'll also be there and I'll get my thumbs up picture with David. Okay. So that's a tradition I always do. So anyway, thanks, guys. Sounds like a lot of fun the 25th. And thanks for being my guest on this edition of the Blaine's World webcast. And one thing back to both of you. So if they go, David, to your Facebook page, I believe that they can also see some clips so they can see you perform on that?
Yes.
Okay. So David does a great job having his stuff. Simone, eventually, if you're back, or getting that, even on Facebook, do you have any of your clips on Facebook?
Oh, I do.
Okay. So if they want to,
I have a public performance album where people can see a lot of pictures of David and I performing over the years. Videos that I've posted, I tend to share to that album. So if people want to go through and look at that, it's open to the public.
And is that on Facebook? Facebook?
It is.
Okay.
Under Simone Vigilante.
And I'll just reinforce something David had said, that folks are in for a treat if they do come see you on the 25th, because I do recall David invited me to that concert at Diner Wortham. That was just a concert where Simone was. What was the concert she was at?
Is that the Imagine concert?
Yeah, that
I'm
was,
sure
boy,
it
was
was-
that was some show. That was
That was a
like,
spectacular night.
yeah, it was just great. So anyway, thank you guys both for joining me, and
Thank-
hopefully we'll see you on the 25th, if not before.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Okay.